everybody. Sorry for the delay. I was having some issues with the internet and the world. Today we have a special thing, I guess, with the talented Mitch Myers.
Hello.
Is that how you say your last name? Probably. Hey?
Yeah.
So, actually, why don't you tell us who you are? What do you do?
So, I'm Mitch Myers. I'm a 3D artist, I guess, motion designer. Do some art direction too. But, I work a lot in the commercial space with a bunch of agencies that have been around. And I do a lot of art direction as well for them. So we actually got to do some of the After Effects stuff for the new brand ident, right?
Yeah.
That was super fun.
So actually, why don't I'll start talking there.
Okay.
So we've never worked together.
No.
So they're actually very different. I would say they're fairly different styles. And then we get an email from Adobe, and they're like, "Hey, so we have this idea for the Adobe ident to kind of like make you guys collaborate into making something for the splash." And we're both like, well, we're super busy, but you just can't say no to something like this.
Yes.
So we're like, okay, we'll somehow find a way to make it work. And then we started chatting. I was like, should we say yes? I was like, yeah, we have to say yes.
For sure.
So we told them yes, and and that's kind of how it began. And they had initially sent some, I don't know, they kind of sent us a brief that didn't say much other than somehow combining our styles, right?
Yeah, and that was kind of the cool part that I thought was, okay, it looks like this is kind of all they're looking to send to us, but it's super minimal, and hopefully that is kind of, maybe they're going to give us a lot of freedom. So I was like, ooh, this might be really, really fun. Because all they had was like a color swatch, basically. It was like, hey, let's try to use these colors. And that's it, basically.
Yeah, and they were actually quite, they were really easy to work with.
Totally.
Our ideas, they kind of landed fairly quickly. And so I'll, by the way, if anyone has questions, feel free to just throw them in there. And we'll try to answer the best we can. Everybody can hear us okay, right? I just want to make sure that we're good. Say yes. Someone say yes.
Someone.
Give me a sign. Everybody can hear us okay. Okay, wait. 3 seconds delay. Okay, no one's saying yes. Fine.
Yay, there you go.
There you go. Loud and clear. Perfect. Thank you. Sorry for the delay. All right, so I'm gonna open up some of the first things that we did, and some of these you've probably seen it, the Behance, a little behind the scenes that we did. But here, let me find it here. So this is kind of where everything started, obviously all of these were pretty much straight from After Effects, and all the nulls and shapes, handles and stuff. And a lot of these I kind of had played with it a bit with an intro that I did for my demo reel. So I kind of had like that idea already of like, and I bounced kind of like with Mitch. It was like, what if we do something using this? And he was like, yeah, that sounds awesome. So we started exploring with that, and kind of like how to play it to create different elements and different graphics just using those little nulls and so on. And at one point we had kind of like the idea maybe we can do something kind of like that comp icon that you see in After Effects, which I guess that's kind of where the triangle came from in some way or another. It had nothing to do with Illuminati like a lot of you are thinking.
It's a cool idea though.
I got so many comments like the Illuminati. So, yeah. So I kind of bouncing those ideas with Mitch, and we kind of seem to both think that was a good way to start. So the first thing, I guess, I started playing with some explorations with nulls and stuff, and I'm trying to find them here. The very first ones were kind of very, I don't know. Well, you'll see it once it decides to load in my very. I don't even know why it's taking so long. Oh, it's because it's 9,000 by 9,000 pixels. That's why.
Oh yes.
So this was one of the very first ones that I sent to Mitch, I think, or maybe we sent some before. And there was kind of something interesting about it, and then basically, and then I'll pass it on to your side of things, Mitch. After this, maybe you can share your screen.
Totally.
But then it was too complicated, obviously, and I actually even had some screenshots from actual After Effects. Come on, why is it so slow? It's not like I'm running 20 things. It's just the size, I think. It's the 9,000. Anyway, those are just the elements that I use for the actual Illustrator. But anyway, I start simplifying a bit and in a way making it more concentrical, and then this is all just Illustrator. Obviously, at one point couldn't take it just from After Effects, and start playing with Illustrator was a bit easier and faster. So then I basically just, that's it. I was like, okay, Mitch, here, do your magic, and I sent him those designs, and then he went crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah, so feel free to, I don't know, want to share your screen or kind of like talk about how you kind of took it from there, I guess.
Yeah, let's see. Share screen.
Doctor Strange, eh? Someone said Doctor Strange. Yeah, I guess it's kind of Doctor Strange.
Sweet. I'll take that.
Yeah, I'll take that.
That was a good movie. Alright, let's see. Is my screen sharing yet?
Yep.
There it goes. Cool. Alright, so I started out with one of the original AI files that you sent over, and started like bringing it in. I just used I think it was CV ArtSmart, which is like a super simple way to like import illustrations and stuff like that into Cinema 4D.
Whoa,
I'm running.
Hold on. What is this thing?
Yeah, CV ArtSmart. You never use that?
I've never even heard of this thing.
For real? Yeah. It's pretty awesome. You just go in, pop it in there, and you can just like load in any. Yeah, it's super cool.
Dude, I keep like exporting from Illustrator version 8 and.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
Oh.
That sucks.
Oh.
But now with this, you can even like change the extrude depth and do some cool little things with it, like add caps and all that jazz. And you can make it editable too in Cinema, and it'll just basically like bring down all the extrude objects and the splines and all that stuff in it too.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's super simple.
That's it. We can finish the stream right there. That's like the best thing we can get. That's awesome.
Tip number 1. So yeah, like it was really easy to bring it in. Let me get out of this camera so I can move around. And I knew that it would be pretty sweet to add this kind of like geometric shape into this kind of weird organic environment, since we were getting like something really techie looking right off the bat. And this is one of like the first ones I think you sent me with like the 3 triangles.
Yeah.
And so I knew I wanted to do this using Octane, just because I basically only use Octane now anyway for everything. Let me see if I can get like a little preview loaded up here. Cool.
Okay, so your computer's a little bit faster than mine. I get it. Fine. Mine couldn't even load an image.
It's like, bing. It basically just started out as like this simple background, just to kind of see what it would look like to start off. And I like added like a VDB volume 2 to this thing, which those of you who don't know like VDBs or anything, I use them almost nonstop because I'm obsessed with them. And it stands for volumetric database, and you can add anything into a VDB object from Octane, and it'll pop into your scene, and you can change the import unit, stuff like that. You can go into the medium tab and change density, step length, absorption color, all that stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so for absorption color, I used a green because I knew it would be kind of like an opposite, like scatter within the volume or whatever the mumbo jumbo is. So I can get this kind of like purple haze going from it too. And it turned out pretty sweet. I think I used one of my VDBs too. Yeah, from one of my VDB packs. To create a bunch of like random VDBs in Houdini. And so I knew I probably would use one of those to start off with.
Cool.
And I even tried to like put in some like trees and like random stuff to like add depth, but
oh, you did?
For one, yeah, it was pretty cool, but it's kind of weird because it's like, why the hell are these trees here? It didn't really make sense. It was cool for like composition and whatnot.
Do you still have them there?
Yeah, let me see if I can load them up. I knew like there's a lot of polys too, so I was like, oh my god. This might get a little intense, but let me see. I'll go back to my locked cam.
Oh yeah, I see.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool. They're kind of hidden in the scene too. And remember that first one that we sent Adobe was kind of like super minimal. It was like really dark, and it basically was just this like geo thing.
Yeah.
With this like splash of light coming from it that was affecting this like volume. And I think they dug it, but they're like, let's try to add something more to it.
Yeah, that's cool. So someone's asking,
sure.
Like I guess, more explanation on what VDBs are exactly.
Totally. Let me just open up a new scene, and I can just play around with one for a second. So I'll go ahead and. So if you have Octane like I do, you can go into your live viewer and go down and get a Octane VDB volume, and you'll see you first get this little white like bounding box, and you can find some VDBs like around the internet. I forgot, there's this one site, I can't remember what it was, but I'm sure I could find it later on. But if you wanted to go to my VDBs, I have them on my store. I got like a bunch of different ones like clouds and smoke. I got some like abstract and nebula ones too. Or I got this this mega pack, which is pretty sweet. It just has like a whole like thing. Let me see if I can get this thing loaded up. Come on.
Yeah, open VDB.
Yeah, so let's see. Boom. So yeah, so if you
and these
want to
only
go
work for Octane, correct?
Yeah, any render engine that can upload VDBs, I think Redshift can. I'm not sure what else because I mainly just use Octane. I haven't experimented with the other ones, but there are some like third-party renderers that you can upload VDBs to. But yeah, you can buy like all these different types of volumes and use them in your scenes.
Cool.
They're pretty sweet. Anywho, so all you got to do is go to this VDB tab if you're using Octane, and I'll upload one of mine. Let me see if I can find it here. Down.
Yeah, well, well, you're looking for that one. Someone was asking about my next course, and we're gathering information from you guys right now, because I'm mostly interested in like what is it that you would like in a more advanced course, I guess. And I know a bunch of you have submitted your questions and answers for the questionnaire that it was sent on the newsletter. Anyway, that's kind of what we're doing right now. And once I have enough information to kind of have an idea of what is it exactly that would be the best way to go about it, then I'll start, continue working on that. But that's still the plan. And it probably won't necessarily be as project-based as my first course, where we're taking a project from start to finish. It'll probably be like maybe a collection of 2 or 3 exercises that are kind of like the advanced skills are more utilized, and more of a breakdown on how to go about those and how to implement probably some of even Cinema 4D in certain transitions to make it look 2D, as I do that a lot. Maybe a bit of more of complex compositing and stuff like that. But that is kind of where I'm at, just for those who are asking. Back to VDB.
So when you import your VDB, like I just did in this file, I got one of my nebulas that I made in one of my packs. The import unit is normally right off the bat pretty small. You'll see this yellow box here, and so you can just go and make it a bit bigger. Boom. And so basically that is your container for your VDB, and it's basically this box of information that allows your render engine to calculate densities, and kind of the minimum and maximum of like the actual density that's in this kind of like bounding box. And you can modify it using your densities, volume, step length, all this volume and medium like data. So let's see, do like your test yaw, see what it looks like. There it goes. Cool.
Nice.
So right now, it's got this kind of smoky haze. Make it a bit bigger so everyone can see it pretty clearly. And I'm going to create an HDRI, make it black, and grab a targeted area light so we can make it look cool too.
Okay,
so that's kind of like the...
There's a pretty technical question going on here. I don't know if you see it on your end.
Let's see. About the render times?
Yeah.
Let's see. Render times on VDBs on Octane. And how many GPUs do you have? Yeah, I got 2 1080 Ti's, the SC2s, the EVGA hybrids, and they've been working super well for me. There's always kind of like this lag on render time when it comes to Octane and volumes. I think Redshift is kind of like the king as far as volume rendering right now, as far as like a third-party render engine for cinema. I know that's like mega quick, so you're always going to kind of have to like wait a little bit for VDB rendering or any volume rendering in Octane. I think the new updates that are going to allow for like cleaning up your scene, like the noise reduction features they're going to add into Octane are going to help a lot. And also going into, like, if you make a Octane camera and you go into your tag and into your camera imager, make sure it's enabled, and then messing with this hot pixel remover too, if you bring that down, it might take away a little bit of the noise that you're experiencing too. But yeah, there's always going to be a little bit of a wait. I think the, what was it, 9,000 by 9,000 image that we rendered, the final one, probably took, I think like about 18 hours, I think, just for one image. Because I wanted to make sure that thing was clean.
Yeah. It also, the resolution was pretty big, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty massive.
Here's and this might kind of lead into some other questions, but someone's asking about how do you decide to get into 2D versus 3D. But why don't you continue to finish and kind of like showing what was the next steps on the 3D process.
Totally.
And then we can kind of like chat more generally about that kind of stuff, and we can open it for questions or whatever.
Yeah, so I'll open up some other versions. So they wanted to, or Adobe was asking for a little bit more like complexity in the scene, and so I went ahead and got some of these little elements that you made and started creating these little different, like, I guess just lines that would be floating around in the scene. And I thought it would make for some like interesting bokeh and stuff like that while we were creating this, if we had it in the foreground.
Mm-hmm.
But it seemed like it was just a little too much going on, and it was kind of taken away from like the main object that we were trying to like convey. See if I can get a test of what this thing looked like. Some of these I can't even really remember what they looked like.
Yeah, we did a few tests.
So yeah, so this is like, it looks pretty rad because I got our, it's like a really shallow depth of field on it. And this is when I started messing with some kind of like leading lines going through the scene too. And I liked that a lot. So I went ahead and we ended up keeping that, I think. But I went ahead and lost these little guys because it's just kind of like almost, it was muddying up the scene instead of actually bringing something to it. And then, let's see, I think on the next one is when I started messing around with the actual like background and the weirdness of it.
Yeah, and at that point, because we did a few, I think it was like 3 different or 4 different vector base.
Yeah.
And we ended up choosing we were kind of like torn between 2 final ones, and ended up going for the triangle. There's something simple about it that was kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely. I think this was this the final?
It kind of looks like it.
Yeah. Let's see.
Someone's asking why it took 18 hours. Well, it was a 9,000 by 9,000 frame.
Yes.
So that's probably most of it.
Yeah. 9,000 by 9,000 frame, and then plus I was using a volume in it too, and I wanted to make sure that that was like super clean. There wasn't any sort of noise in it, since it was going to be used everywhere.
Yeah, I think they actually printed a massive one at Adobe Max.
Oh, that was cool.
That was pretty cool. So, yeah.
Yeah, if that would have been blown up like that and there was noise all over the place, I would have freaked out. Let's see. So yeah, it's not loading my texture. Let me pop in this texture here. So for the background, I used one of the textures that the French Monkey made. I'm not sure if you guys know about him or not, but he's this dude who lives in Greece, I think, and makes some really badass textures that you can use for your 3D scenes. And I knew he had this retina pack that I bought recently, and it was going to be like perfect for what I wanted to do for this. Let me see here. It is retina, and that is PM060. Cool. I'll load this thing up so we can see this thing.
Someone was asking, wouldn't it be easier to just Photoshop the volume afterwards? I guess so.
I guess so, but I just wanted to get that natural light spill,
Yeah.
and I mean, I'm a 3D dude. I'm not gonna work in Photoshop if I don't have to. Like, I'd rather make it hard on myself and have some fun.
I think that's the right answer. It's just like,
Yeah.
sometimes we just like to challenge ourselves because we can. Why not? I mean,
Totally.
It doesn't mean you shouldn't be smart about finding interesting solutions, but
Yeah. Okay, so I just popped in this retina image from one of the packs that he makes, and like background changed totally. So you kind of get this weird, meshy, kind of stretched out, cool organic floor, which I knew was going to be like a cool addition to this weird techie thing that we had going on. And I think like the thinking of it when we were doing it was like After Effects would be this techie kind of look, and then like the organic would represent like the creative dude or chick's mind, and like they live in like the same world though, and like this weird like integration. I'm not sure if I needed to make an explanation for it, but I did anyway.
Yeah. Mostly it just looked cool.
Right. That was my initial thought. And I was like, maybe I should like
have a reasoning behind it.
Yeah, their reasoning, so they don't tear it apart during the pitch.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we tried different angles as well. That's right.
Yeah, different angles, which did look pretty sweet, but it was kind of, I don't know, like there was something about it that it wasn't right. I don't know.
Yeah, and you know what? There's actually something really nice about like opening After Effects now and seeing it kind of like facing you. I feel like like there's something that it was like almost like it feels like it was made for the splash screen instead of like a cool image that was put in the splash screen, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah. It's not like an Instagram image that Adobe took and put it somewhere. Exactly. For sure.
So yeah, that was pretty cool.
I'm trying to find, let's see.
But yeah, I'm gonna try to answer some of these questions, and feel free to kind of like jump in. There's a couple of interesting ones. One is, the decision 2D versus 3D, and I can talk a little bit about myself, and then you can talk about I actually started with Maya. There was like a Maya course back where I was at the time. I was living in Monterrey in Mexico, and I was working at a game center playing Call of Duty all day basically, and got paid to do it. It was great. But at that time, like they were putting a Maya course in there. A guy was teaching it. So I actually started with 3D, and I kind of took that course and learned a whole bunch of Maya and started to get a bit into character animation in Maya. And actually, probably that was the first time I officially opened After Effects to like put an image sequence there and change some stuff. But even though I found it very fascinating, it was a matter of preference for me. Like for some reason, I just felt like I had more control over certain movements with After Effects, and I guess I was more used to the 2D movements and the, just 2 coordinates instead of 3, and not having to rig a whole bunch of stuff. That kind of just steered me towards 2D, and it's not to say that I don't use 3D anymore, because I still use it at least for like every project. There's definitely a shot in cinema. And I've shown it in the tips and tickers before. I use it just to kind of like to achieve certain things that After Effects is limited to, and that cinema is just way faster to create certain things, and I can bring them with Element 3D or whatever. So for me, it was definitely a matter of like the look. I kind of was more interested in. I am much more of a flat kind of guy, and a bit more graphic designy, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that was kind of how I ended up more in 2D.
Totally, man.
What about you?
So you started in 3D technically then, right?
Yeah, technically, I guess.
I've heard that's like incredibly rare, and I actually did the same thing too. I started in like 3D, and it was me. I used to do like graphic design and stuff like that, like merch design for bands while I was on tour, because I was bored a lot. And whenever I got out of that world and got back home, I got Cinema 4D and started looking at like grayscale gorilla tutorials.
Yeah,
a lot of you guys have checked out. And I kind of like fell in love with cinema just because it seems much more natural for me to work in 3D space than it does in After. Even though I started out in 3D, I actually did a lot of my beginning of my career. I was in After Effects almost like 100% of the time, doing like more traditional motion design work. And recently, I got back into this 3D kind of world, and it's I don't know. I just love moving around my scene, fluidly, and I'm very into the like hyper realism and stuff like that. So I think that's probably why After Effects came to both of us, is because like our looks are like completely different almost, and the way we use our tools are probably really different. And they express kind of the thing this year doing this kind of like working together kind of team based production for this thing.
Yeah, I thought they were doing that for every image, but I guess not. I think we're the only ones that actually it's the two of us, like a collaboration.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like, I loved your idea with the initial like behind the keyframes kind of look, and I knew that was going to look really cool in this 3D kind of world, especially with when you mentioned like doing some neon stuff with it. I was like, hell yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. That's going to be awesome.
Someone just asked why aren't we dressed up as Halloween, and I'm actually personally insulted. I mean, you're clearly dressed up. That mustache is not real, guys. And I got a haircut, so come on, Matt.
Yeah, come on, dude.
What on earth? There was someone was asking about 2D and 3D in terms of like the industry, I guess, and there was another similar question earlier. It was like, is there more? Oh, I guess the same person. Is there more VFX right now, more demand, more 3D, or is? And I mean, I can only speak on my side of things, where it's definitely pretty much all 2D. I haven't seen any decline in 2D demand at all. If anything, is getting crazier. But that could be, it really, there's so many variables, and
for sure,
I don't see Mitch slowing down at all either. So.
Yeah, no, like I since getting into this freelance career that I'm in right now, which has been since June, so I'm pretty new to the whole freelance thing. But I do visual effects and 3D and stuff like that, but I do still have my like niche as far as most of my freelance clients are agencies, so I do a lot of like commercial work, but I haven't seen like any sort of issue with anything slowing down or the medium like declining in any way. I think especially as far as technology progressing in like the VR space, and people starting to model in 3D within like VR, which is awesome, and I can't wait to get into that too. I think it's only gonna get like even crazier.
Cool. Question for you. I didn't realize you were just starting freelance. I thought you were doing it for a while.
Yeah. No.
So where were you before?
So my first real gig in actually like motion design and everything was for the St. Louis Rams, the football team.
Yeah.
And so I did a bunch of their online stuff and some like docu style things for NFL Network and whatnot, and it was cool and everything, but it wasn't like where I wanted to be. I'm not like a huge sports guy. And then I moved. I was thinking about moving to Chicago, and possibly joining up with the guys up at Leviathan, or staying in St. Louis. And ultimately decided to stay in St. Louis just because I have a small family here and everything. So it was just easier at the time. And I got up with this agency called Vidzu here in St. Louis, and it was super cool, like group. Everyone was awesome. The type of work was pretty cool, but it just still didn't feel like necessarily right for me and kind of what I wanted. And like making the jump to freelance was like incredibly scary because I had no idea whether I was going to do it and absolutely have like 0 clients, or like I could totally like quit my job and then be absolutely screwed. But I knew it was probably, just a decision I had to make just to like kind of like figure it out, because I knew I wasn't where I wanted to be at the time. So I just did it, and it's been awesome.
Yeah,
totally awesome.
yeah, it's I can say the same thing. Like, well, I've been freelancing for over a year now, year and a half, and it's definitely pretty scary.
Yeah.
You know, even if you've built, you know, a portfolio and stuff, like you still the jump, it can be, it was pretty scary. And now that I'm kind of like seeing what's next, like maybe establishing something a bit more concrete, I guess, and finding more people to work with and stuff, it's even scarier. But again, like you know, it's very much a personal preference. I think I don't think one is better than another one. It depends on the kind of work that you're or the direction that you're going, and not just work wise. Like I feel like, at least for me, the decision of freelance versus full time had almost more to do with like life around it than precisely the kind of work that I wanted to do, which I think is a very, very big thing that, you know, only you will be able to know what's your stage at, and you and your family and stuff. It's not like it's a really, you know, black and white decision, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. That was kind of my decision making with it too. Was I knew that you kind of have to be okay with that entrepreneurial kind of thing and owning a business, because even though if like your title is like a freelancer, you're still owning your own thing.
Yeah.
And so you have to be on top of like a lot more than if you would, you know, at an agency, because I mean you're like, you know, you're like the accountant and the business owner, and again you're also like have to be like the producer or editor or whatever you're doing for your clients at the time, and so you're like playing a lot more roles, but it can also be a lot more like you can get a lot more of gratifying kind of like feelings from it too, possibly.
Totally.
So yeah
actually, Animate is writing an article, Animate, for those of you who know it, on a bit of this topic, and I got a sneak read on it, but you guys should read it once it's out. I'll send it along. But it kind of like basically, once you're on your own, you are wearing all these different hats, and one very important thing is to define what all those hats are, even if you're doing them all. And I know like that's something that I've been thinking about in the past few days. Really, it's like just like, okay, even writing down what are all the roles that I'm fulfilling right now as my own person, and that would help me even in the future if I wanted to kind of like bring in someone else or help me out to like know which ones to delegate and which ones will be me, which ones would not be me. The article is not live yet, but I will send it to you. I think they're gonna post it very soon. I'll share it with you. Paul asked, "Hey Paul, how's it going? I didn't know you came to this thing. It's nice to see you." He's a great animator. I don't know what he's doing here. He doesn't need any tips. He's saying this clearly uses color based on the After Effects Spectrum scheme and for the Adobe ident. And that's actually the one thing basically that they provided us. They gave us this two colors, wasn't it? Like these are the colors that you need to work with. This is what the icon is gonna look like, and that's basically the After Effects purple that you see. So that's kind of like the only parameter they gave us in the size. I mean, I'm sure that would have been open if we wanted to introduce a few other colors, but we kind of like those colors anyways, and thought it might be cool to stick with them.
Totally. Yeah, I knew the colors, if we were going into like the 3D world and we're going to use them as like emissions, and I knew the colors were going to change a little bit depending on intensity of like those emissions and all that. Mm-hmm. But generally, as far as grading and stuff like that, whenever we were messing around with that, it was, I had it in my mind to kind of like keep it similar, because I really didn't want them to like have an issue with it whenever we sent it over. Especially because both of us were like that was like one of the busiest months of my life, and then that like jumped on like my plate too. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was nutty.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Cool. Well, let's just open this to any type of questions for the next 10-15 minutes, since we started a bit late. whether to me, to Mitch, to whatever, just throwing any questions. And yeah, I don't know, just go for it. We open the floor.
Yes.
How busy is the? Oh, how heavy? I was gonna ask you. How heavy is that actual cinema? Is it actually pretty light to move around? Like once you.
Yeah, like at the final scene is not too bad. I think I'm a little laggy right now because of the streaming.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's super smooth. I mean, like when we imported this thing, there's hardly any geometry. It's just squares.
Oh,
so yeah, so it's very light, and all my displacements being generated from my actual texture. There's no polys doing it for me, so it's a very simple scene.
I wanted to show one because one of our initial ideas was to actually animate this thing.
Yeah.
But time restrictions didn't allow us to. Although we did this little camera test, which was kind of cool, I guess. I guess you can't see what I'm doing, can you? Well, that was kind of cool. All right, well, there's questions here. Right. Let's bring you back here in the center. Or can you explain your process of the splash screen After Effects? I kind of actually already covered that at the very beginning. But yeah, basically I actually just went into After Effects and created a whole bunch of nulls and arranged them in different places to kind of get a bit of a sense of how to recreate them. And then I took a bunch of screenshots of all the nulls, different nulls and different paths, and recreated them in Illustrator to have the vector files. And from there it was just like doing tons of different versions and trials and errors to kind of come up with a cool vector option, I guess. Let's find it here. So some of the first ones, that's the final one. This was the other one that we were. So that was the very first one, I think. And then I tried to add a bunch more complexity. And here I took far more liberties, like actually, put little things that are not necessarily straight from After Effects, and kind of like went a bit crazy here and play with the dots and change different colors and so on, and you can see all the little details. And I love this kind of stuff. It's kind of like technical drawings, which is something that I've always really enjoyed. But eventually ended up using this one. So yeah, that's kind of it really. And then it's got a few different layers, and I could probably open that and see if it's not too slow. Let's see. But anyway, while that opens, there's some other questions here. Do you have any plans for any projects in the future together? We don't really have any plans right now, but it would be cool.
Yeah, it'd be sweet. I mean, if the opportunity came about, and I'd be all for it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And this time we can actually animate it, which would be sweet.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Daily work habits for more efficient workflow. Ever since I started freelance, I was terrible at this when I was full-time, but I started tracking my time. And it's helped me a ton. Like I get an idea of how much I've got done in the day. It helps me to know how far off from 40 hours a week I've done, whether it's way too much more or if it was less and I still got to accomplish as much. That's probably one of the biggest things that's helped me to be more efficient, tracking my time. I use Toggle. I don't know. I think it's a free one.
That's what I use too.
Yeah, and it's been great. I find that it's one of the most. Another thing that I find very efficient. I don't know. This is because I have to deal with clients a lot. If you're in that same boat, I like to pack all my calls and all my stuff in one day. Like today is my calls and stuff day. Like I haven't actually got much done yet because it's been calls all morning.
Yeah.
But I don't know, what tips would you have?
Yeah, I mean, I actually kind of did the same thing with calls. I try to schedule all my calls and meetings for the beginning of the week, like Mondays and Tuesdays.
Nice.
And then so I can actually like get work done and concentrate. And usually by Mondays and Tuesdays, like especially if I have a project that I'm working on like over the weekend, like I'm totally out of the zone still. And so it gives me a little bit more time to kind of like refresh my brain and not have to like stare at cinema for a hot second.
Yeah.
But I mean, other than that, I think understanding the roles of kind of the different types of roles that you might have to play with each different client, whether like a certain client's asking for a certain project and you know that you're going to have to be like the motion designer and kind of the art director and maybe the producer too on it, or if you're strictly only doing, 3D design work as a freelancer and you have, you're working with a producer on the agency side or creator director and stuff like that. And so knowing what type of work that you're actually going to needing to be doing for the client, what they're expecting, and then it allows you to kind of develop a workflow from the very beginning of, okay, how should I start this project in cinema, as far as myself, since I work in cinema, and I need to send them test looks at this date probably, or at least need to like get certain information from them, blah blah blah, stuff like that is going to help you along the lines of maintaining your workflow and time and not making mistakes and pissing off your client.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I've definitely learned really quickly.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Kind of related with someone was asking, the classic work-life balance question, and I try to, I have one kid. In 3 weeks I'll have another one, and Mitch just got married. Congratulations, by the way. That's awesome.
Thanks. Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, definitely, like life, it's more important than what I put out in the world. So that's kind of how I plan my work around. Really, in many ways, there'll be projects that I'll, that they're not crazy demanding, but they're still fun, and much simpler, that I'll take. So I could spend more time with my family or whatever, and then the next project I'll know that it'll be a super demanding one, and I feel more okay taking that one, knowing that I just took one that is not so bad. And I try to keep my hours fairly rigid, so like my kid knows when I'm getting home, and my wife, and like it can be scheduled accordingly. So I do keep a 9 to 6 day, and I've been pretty good about it. I don't think I've had to work some extra hours a few days, obviously, but barely, honestly, and it's been great. How has been your freelance experience so far?
Yeah, I've been like absolutely awful at it. I am a complete workaholic, and like I've caught myself a lot being like up at 3 a.m. just because I want to either to like look better, or I just like can't get out of the zone. Getting like that crazy like focused, the day goes by in like 2 minutes in your mind kind of like feeling. It's almost every day for me, so I can't like get out of my own head sometimes. And especially even when I'm like done and I'm laying in bed just like watching Netflix or something, I'll still be like, I'm just like, okay, like how do I like get this to do what I want or whatever. And so that's definitely something that I'm working on, because it's incredibly hard for me to get out.
It's tough. I found that like what forces me to snap out of it, and you know what, like that I don't mean it to be like oh you have to snap out of it, but like it's just the fact that when I had a kid, honestly, that kind of like forced me like, okay, it's like he's waiting for me, and I'm like I'll solve this tomorrow type thing.
Yeah,
that's kind of what's forced me. Someone mentioned learn about taxes.
Yeah.
Yes. Actually, I honestly have no idea why on earth schools don't teach about taxes. Like, I just don't understand it. Like, for
me neither.
It's like the most basic thing you need after school, and nobody teaches you that stuff. It's ridiculous. But yes, absolutely, especially freelance. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know how it is over there, but
all of your money.
I pay so much taxes here; it's insane, and it's probably
Yeah.
pretty similar percentage over in the U.S. But
Man.
yeah, learn about that stuff early if you're going freelance. Have someone to talk to and ask dumb questions all the time.
Yeah,
at least that's what I
do.
do.
Not be afraid to get an accountant, because I did that, and it's like helped me so much.
Yeah, that was one of the best things I did last year.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any good resources for learning about taxes?
I don't know. My resource is my accountant.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah.
There's got to be something online. I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah.
I used to work in a team of 3 and learn tons, but now it's only me and advertising agency, and it's become really technical and not creative at all. Yikes.
Yeah.
So, what's the question? Help me.
Yeah. Do you want me to tell you to quit, or?
Yeah, I know. It's
I feel like we've all been in that situation at some point or other, like, to where something's not giving you the artistic kind of like fuel that you're needing, and it all seems like kind of like a grinding assembly line kind of job or client or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I mean, let's see. I mean, how long have you been in this job? Is it likely to change? Is this like a lull, or is this a slow season, or what's going on with that?
Yeah, I found that, like, I mean, it kind of depends. I've never worked at a big studio, like a big agency or anything like that. So I've always been able to, like, talk to whoever's in charge, basically, because it's always been small places, and say, hey, this is not working, or honestly, like, we're really missing one person here. Like I could be doing my job twice as better if we just had one help in this specific area.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you can really do that in those. I guess you worked in an agency, you would know more than.
Yeah, like I've been at a really large agency before, and I've been at like a smaller, focused agency too. And definitely, like, the more focused agencies, you're like a larger cog in the wheel, and so you have a little bit more. I don't know if say is the correct word, but I guess a little more pull on the decision making,
right,
because you're playing, I guess, like a bigger part.
Yeah.
And so if you're at like let's say like a big PR firm, and you're like a motion designer in their like video department, obviously you're kind of in a box, and you're not going to really have a whole lot of like wiggle room to do what you really want to, because it comes from the top down, and what the client wants you're going to have to kind of deliver. So yeah, I mean, I guess kind of good. Let's see, did he respond here? Sometimes think that trying other studios more specific to motion graphics and animation, or even 3D, will inspire me more to learn from others. Yeah, for sure. Testing out different agencies and mediums and stuff like that is definitely a good way to kind of like spark more inspiration for yourself. I know whenever I am not feeling it in cinema or something like that, I'll jump into Houdini, because I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing in it, and it's really fun that way, because like I have no idea what a certain node is going to do whenever I connect it, so it's kind of like this new experience. And the same way with a client, if I'll be doing a lot of promo work for feature films that are coming out, and it kind of seems like almost getting one thing after the other, I'll try to get a client that wants some concert visuals, or something a little weirder, out of that kind of world, and that always helps for sure.
Yeah. I think that's a good answer. Just kind of like changing your environment a bit and finding out new challenges, even if you're still in the same job. Like I'm not a big pusher into like, oh well, if you're stuck there, you need to find something better. Like,
yeah,
I'm kind of like trying to make it work where you are type thing, because the grass is always going to be greener anywhere else. Like, there's a certain balance, contentment, it's tricky. But there was another question about expressions, and I think someone else has answered. I'm by no means expression expert. I don't know if you are, Mitch. But,
no.
You might be more of an espresso guy.
Yeah, I'm not an expert in anything.
Yeah, someone mentioned, actually understanding the language better, and someone talking about the Java, JavaScript and stuff. That's probably the way about it. I don't really know if there is. I mean, there's got to be some expressions one-on-one. I mean, the kind of area of coding, especially in After Effects, I feel like it's so much. You gotta kind of understand some basics of the language and then just dig in and keep trying stuff until you kind of like start writing your own, really. But I don't even go there. Oh, do we have duplicate audio? Someone's saying, for some reason, say that in Spanish. Sweet.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we're okay. Well, let's do one more.
Okay.
Have time for personality. Well, I don't know. That might be a good place to end. But I don't know if you have anything to add or any advice that you have for the peeps. Coolfire. Someone keeps talking about Coolfire. What's Coolfire?
Oh man. Oh yeah. That's a perfect way to end this. Hey Phil, what's going on, dude? So I was going to go to Half Res this last year.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you've ever been to that. Have you?
I haven't actually.
It's really fun. It's my first time this year, and I contacted David, who just wrote ha 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 ha. And I was like, hey man, I want to go to Half Res this year, and like all the tickets are gone because it's last minute. Because I randomly got like that week off, so I was like, whatever, I'll drive up to Chicago. And he was like, yeah, hit up blah blah blah, and we'll get you a ticket. We'll find something, I'm sure. And I was going to send Cool, but for some reason my phone auto-corrected to Coolfire for whatever reason. And so that became this crazy ordeal. Whenever I got up to Chicago, I got up to the Brograph guys. They got like a B&B up there, and I went in there, and it randomly became like a thing. In 2 seconds, we made T-shirts while we were in Chicago. They have this awesome mustache on it. It says Coolfire, and I got 2 of them in my closet right now.
That's amazing.
Like, it's like a monster of a hashtag right now.
Coolfire. I like it.
So yes, that's the story.
Cool.
Yeah.
We'll have
just a rebrand for myself.
We'll have to get you to Blend next time, and you can hashtag Blend Coolfire or something. Yeah, I need to go to Half Res. There's so many cool things that I want.
Yeah, it was incredibly fun.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks everybody being with us and the questions. Hopefully this was helpful and a bit of a broader chat than usual, I guess. And you probably won't hear from me for the rest of the year. Probably I'll disappear with my baby, and I'm sure Mitch will still be on making awesome stuff. Follow him on Twitter, Instagram, and he's doing some really cool stuff. And if you're interested in motion design, you can take the course, my course for motion design, and stay tuned for the advanced motion design, I guess. But that's it for us. Thanks for listening, and have a great October 31st.
Cool.
All right.